The restaurant glowed with candlelight. Every table buzzed with laughter. Every table except one. Lily sat alone in her white dress, staring at melting ice in her glass. Empty chair across from her. Again. She checked her phone. Nothing. She glanced at the door. No one. The waiter approached to clear the table. Then the door opened. A man in a simple shirt walked in. His eyes found hers. She smiled weakly. You don't have to sit. They all left. He pulled out the chair. Then maybe tonight I'll stay. A tear rolled down her cheek. Don't leave. You're the only one who came. 24 hours earlier, Lily had almost canceled. She stood in front of her bathroom mirror, holding the phone her best friend had shoved into her hands. It's just one blind date, Lily. What's the worst that could happen? Lily knew the answer. The worst had already happened. 3 times. 3 blind dates. 3 empty chairs. 3 nights of sitting alone while strangers whispered and waiters looked at her with pity. I'm not doing this again, she told herself, but her friend wouldn't stop texting. So she'd put on the white dress one more time and walked into that restaurant, preparing her heart for another disappointment. What Lily didn't know was that across the city, in a penthouse office overlooking the glittering skyline, another lonely person was preparing for the same night. Jack Hale stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of Hale Tech headquarters, loosening his tie. At 38, he'd built an empire. Tech magazines called him a visionary. Forbes called him a billionaire. But none of them called him by the name that mattered most. Dad. Papa? A small voice came from the doorway. Jack turned to see Ella, his 9-year-old daughter, holding her backpack and looking at him with those wise eyes that always seemed too old for her age. Ready to go home, sweetheart? Ella walked up to him and took his hand. Papa, you're going on that date tonight, right? Jack sighed. Ella, we talked about this. I know, but you need to find someone who listens to you, not someone who wants your money. She squeezed his hand. Someone real. Jack knelt down to her level. And what if I don't find anyone? Ella smiled. Then you keep looking. Because you're a good man, Papa, and good men deserve good people. That's why Jack had downloaded the app under a fake name. No photos, no company listed, just Jack with a simple profile. He wanted to meet someone who saw him, not his bank account. Someone who wanted the man, not the CEO. He'd matched with a woman named Lily who designed handmade jewelry. Her profile said she believed in small kindnesses and second chances. Something about those words made him swipe right. But as Jack drove to the restaurant that night, he almost turned back. What was he doing? He was a single father with a company to run and a daughter to raise. He didn't have time for romance. Then he thought of Ella's words. Someone real. He parked the car and walked into the restaurant. That's when he saw her, sitting alone. The white dress, the defeated slump of her shoulders, the way she tried to hide her tears when the waiter came. Everyone else in that restaurant looked right through her. But Jack saw something they didn't. He saw a woman who kept showing up even after being let down. A woman who wore her hope like armor, even when it kept getting dented. And in that moment, Jack Hale, the CEO who negotiated billion-dollar deals, made the simplest decision of his life. He walked over and sat down. On Lily's wrist was a simple handmade bracelet with one word stamped into the silver. Stay. She'd made it herself after the 3rd failed date as a reminder. Stay open. Stay kind. Stay hopeful. She never imagined that tonight, someone would finally see it. For a moment, they just sat there. Lily wiped her eyes quickly, embarrassed. Jack signaled the waiter and ordered 2 waters. I'm sorry, Lily said. This is pathetic. You don't even know me and I'm crying. Jack shook his head. Not pathetic. Human. She looked up at him. He wasn't like the others. No flashy watch, no designer cologne, just calm eyes that actually saw her. I'm Lily. Jack. He extended his hand. She shook it, surprised by how warm it felt. The waiter returned with menus. Lily glanced at the prices and her stomach dropped. Appetizers cost more than her phone bill. We can go somewhere else, she said quickly. It's fine. Jack smiled. Order whatever you want. Tonight's about company, not money. Something in his voice made her believe him. She relaxed. Over bread and olive oil, Lily started talking. And once she started, the words poured out. She told him about the 3 blind dates before this. The first guy took one look and pretended he got an emergency call. The second spent dinner swiping through other women on his phone. The third never showed up at all. My friends say I'm too picky, Lily said, but I'm not asking for a prince. I just want someone who shows up, someone who stays. Jack listened without interrupting. No advice, no judgment, just presence. Your friends haven't been stood up enough times, he said. Showing up is basic. You deserve more than basic. When was the last time someone said she deserved anything? What about you, she asked. Why are you on a blind date app? Jack laughed, but it wasn't happy. Having it together and being alone aren't opposites. Sometimes they come in the same package. He told her about his daughter, about being a single father since Ella was 2, about how her mother left, choosing ambition over family, about late nights reading bedtime stories and early mornings braiding hair he still didn't know how to braid. She's 9 now, Jack said, his face changing. Smarter than I'll ever be. Braver too. She told me I should try dating again. Lily smiled. She sounds amazing. She is. Jack looked down. But she worries about me. Says I work too much and forget to be happy. She's right. Daughters usually are, Lily said. My mom used to say the same before she passed. Work isn't the same as living. They fell into comfortable silence. The restaurant buzzed around them, but at their table, time moved differently. When food arrived, Lily asked, Why did you stay? When you walked in and saw me crying, you could have left. Most people would have. Jack set down his fork. He looked at her with intensity. Because I've been the person sitting alone, he said quietly. Not at a restaurant, but in life. I know what it feels like when everyone walks past like you're invisible. I wasn't going to be another person who walked away. Lily's eyes filled with tears again. This time she didn't hide them. You sound like a better man than all those who wear suits here, she whispered. Jack wanted to tell her the truth. That he owned half the city, that his suits cost more than her rent, that his name was on buildings. But something stopped him. Right now he wasn't CEO Jack Hale. He was just Jack. And she was seeing him in a way no one had in years. Real, not powerful, just real. When the check came, Lily's face went pale. She fumbled with her wallet. Let me split it, she said quickly. I insist. Lily. No, really. I can't let you pay. It's too much. I should go. She stood, panic in her eyes. Jack stood too and gently caught her hand. Not grabbing, just holding. Wait, he said. Please. She froze. You talk about life like it still matters, Jack said softly. Like kindness still matters. Like showing up still matters. In my world, people don't talk like that. They talk about deals and leverage and winning. But you remind me why any of it matters. That's worth dinner. That's worth everything. Lily's breath caught. She looked at their hands still touching. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. Don't leave, he whispered. You're the only one who came. She heard her own words reflected back, and something inside her cracked open. Not breaking. Opening. She sat back down. They stayed until the restaurant dimmed its lights. They talked about everything and nothing. Books and fears and dreams, too big to say out loud. When they finally walked into the cool night air, Lily felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Jack walked her to her car. She turned to face him. Thank you, she said, for staying. Thank you for letting me. She drove home in a daze. She didn't know the man she'd shared her heart with was the same man her company would pitch to tomorrow morning. Jack drove home not knowing the woman who made him feel human again was about to walk into his boardroom and turn his world upside down. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, 2 lonely people had found each other in a crowded room. And for one perfect evening, that was enough. Lily woke up with butterflies in her stomach. Not from nerves about the presentation, from him. She'd texted her best friend at midnight. I think I met someone real. Her friend had responded with heart emojis, and finally, But first, she had to survive this morning. Her small design studio had landed a meeting with Hale Tech, the biggest tech company in the city. If they approved her jewelry line for their corporate gifting program, it would change everything. She dressed carefully. Navy blazer, white blouse, her best portfolio clutched under her arm. She touched the stay bracelet on her wrist for luck. "You got this," she whispered to herself. The Hale Tech building was glass and steel, towering over the city like a monument to success. Lily felt small walking through the revolving doors. The lobby alone was bigger than her entire studio. Security directed her to the 20th floor. The elevator ride felt like ascending to another world. When the doors opened, a receptionist with a perfect smile greeted her. "Ms. Adams, they're ready for you in conference room A." Lily's hands trembled slightly as she followed the receptionist down a hallway lined with awards and magazine covers. She caught a glimpse of one headline, "Jack Hale, the visionary who built an empire." She didn't stop to read it. She was too focused on not tripping in her heels. The conference room doors opened. Lily stepped inside, taking in the long table, the wall of windows, the executives in their crisp suits. And then she saw him, sitting at the head of the table. Black suit, tie perfectly knotted, looking every inch the powerful CEO he was. Jack. Her Jack from last night. Except he wasn't hers. And he wasn't just Jack. The world tilted. Her portfolio nearly slipped from her hands. "Good morning, Miss Adams," the woman to his left said. "Please, have a seat. We're excited to see your designs." Lily's legs moved on autopilot. She sat down 3 chairs away from him, her heart hammering so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Jack's face was completely neutral, professional, like they'd never met, like he hadn't held her hand 12 hours ago and told her she made life matter. "Good morning, everyone," a voice beside him said. "I'm Richard Chen, Director of Corporate Relations." He gestured around the table. "And of course, this is Mr. Hale, our CEO." Everyone nodded. Lily's throat was so tight she could barely breathe. "Ms. Adam," Richard continued, "why don't you walk us through your proposal?" She stood on shaking legs, opened her portfolio. Her designs spilled across the table. Delicate silver pieces, handcrafted necklaces, bracelets with words stamped into them. Hope, strength, believe, stay. "These pieces are designed for people who need reminders," Lily began, her voice steadier than she felt. "Reminders that they're not alone, that kindness exists, that someone sees them." She was looking at the table, but she could feel Jack's eyes on her. Richard picked up one of the bracelets, examining it. "Interesting concept, but don't you think it's a bit sentimental for a tech company?" Before Lily could respond, another executive jumped in, a young man with slick back hair and a smirk. "Honestly, this looks like something from a high school craft fair. We're Hale Tech, not Etsy." Heat flooded Lily's face. She opened her mouth to defend her work, but the words stuck. "It's amateur," the man continued, warming to his cruelty. "We need sophisticated corporate gifts, not handmade trinkets that say stay. What does that even mean?" Lily felt herself shrinking. All those hours of work, all that hope, reduced to nothing by someone who didn't even know her name. "It means someone chose to be there when everyone else left." Everyone turned. Jack was leaning back in his chair, his eyes fixed on the sneering executive. "It means showing up matters," Jack continued, his voice quiet but carrying complete authority. "It means presence is a gift. Connection is a gift. These aren't trinkets, David. They're reminders of what we forget when we spend all day staring at screens." David's smirk faltered. "Mr. Hale, I just meant—" "I know what you meant." Jack's tone was ice. "You meant that something honest looks too simple. But simplicity isn't the same as amateur. It's not amateur. It's honest." The room fell silent. Jack stood and walked to the table. He picked up the bracelet with "stay" stamped on it. The same one Lily had worn last night. His thumb traced the word. "We'll take the entire collection," he said, "for our executive gifting program. And I want Ms. Adams to design a custom piece for our annual charity gala." Richard blinked. "Sir, we usually—" I've made my decision. Jack set the bracelet down gently and looked directly at Lily for the first time since she entered the room. Ms. Adams, do you have time to discuss details after this meeting? Lily could barely nod. Good, thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned. The executives filed out, whispering. David left quickly, his face red, and then it was just the two of them. Jack walked to the door and closed it. When he turned back, his CEO mask had cracked. Underneath was the man from last night. Vulnerable. Real. Lily, You're Jack Hale, she whispered. The Jack Hale. Yes. You own all of this. Yes. And last night, you pretended. I didn't pretend anything. He took a step closer. I was myself. More myself than I've been in years. I just didn't tell you about this. He gestured at the office, the view, the empire. Because this isn't who I am. It's what I built. Lily's mind was spinning. Why didn't you tell me? Because everyone knows Jack Hale, he said quietly. Everyone wants something from Jack Hale. But you just wanted someone who would stay. And I wanted to be that person, not the CEO, just the person. She looked at him, standing there in his expensive suit, and remembered him in his simple shirt, holding her hand, telling her she made life matter. You still could have told me, she said, her voice cracking. I know, and I should have. But I was afraid that if you knew who I was, you'd see me differently. And I needed someone to see me clearly. Just once. Lily reached into her bag and pulled out the bracelet he'd held, the one with stay on it. She walked over and pressed it into his palm. For what it's worth, she said softly, I didn't come last night as a designer looking for opportunities. I came because I wanted to meet someone real. His fingers closed around the bracelet. And you were, she finished. Jack's eyes glistened. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I'm sorry I didn't ask. She smiled sadly. We were both hiding, weren't we? Me behind my hurt, you behind your success. Yeah, he breathed. We were. They stood there in the conference room, surrounded by wealth and power and everything that should matter. But all that mattered was the space between them, and whether they were brave enough to close it. By the end of the day, the news had spread through Hale Tech like wildfire. CEO Hale supports designer he met on blind date. The story was too good not to share. Employees whispered in break rooms. Assistants texted friends. By evening, it had hit social media. The internet did what the internet does best. It ate it up. Within 24 hours, Lily's small studio Instagram went from 300 followers to 30,000. Her website crashed from traffic. Orders poured in faster than she could make them. But the real reversal happened inside Hale Tech. The employees who had smiled politely at Lily in the elevator now sent her messages. Your designs are beautiful. Can't wait to see the charity collection. You inspire us. The same people who had walked past her in the hallway now stopped to talk. Asked about her process, praised her vision. And David, the executive who called her work amateur? Jack fired him that afternoon, not for insulting Lily's designs, for a pattern of workplace toxicity that HR had documented for months. The designs were just the last straw that made Jack finally look at what everyone else had been too afraid to report. We don't build companies by tearing people down, Jack said in the termination meeting. We build them by lifting people up. David left with his box of belongings and a severance package. The office breathed easier, but the best part? The warmth that came after. 2 weeks later, Jack called Lily to his office. She arrived nervous, still not quite comfortable in the building that felt too big, too expensive, too much. I have a proposal, Jack said. Not a business proposal. Well, it is, but also more than that. He showed her his idea, a children's jewelry line. Simple, affordable pieces for kids in foster care, shelters, and hospitals. Each piece engraved with words of encouragement. I want to call it the Stay Collection, Jack said. After your bracelet, we'll donate every piece. No profit, just impact. And I want you to design it. Lily stared at the sketches, the budget, the plan. This is going to cost you millions. I have millions, Jack said simply. What I didn't have was purpose for them. You gave me that. She looked up at him. Why? Because you said something that night that stuck with me. You said work isn't the same as living. I've been working my whole life, building and acquiring and growing. But I forgot to live. I forgot that the point of having resources is using them to help people who need someone to stay. Lily felt tears sting her eyes. Jack. My daughter helped me design some of them, he added, pulling out a child's drawing. This one's hers. It says brave. And there it was, in crayon and hope, a little girl's handwriting spelling out what her father had learned. Lily touched the drawing gently. I'd be honored. They worked together over the following months. Jack would stop by her studio after Ella went to bed. They'd sit on her floor surrounded by silver and tools and coffee cups, designing pieces meant to tell children they mattered. Sometimes Ella came too. She'd sit between them, stringing beads and telling stories that made them both laugh. And slowly something neither of them had expected began to grow. Not just a collection, not just a partnership, a family. 1 year later, the Stay Collection launched at Hailtech's annual charity gala. The ballroom glowed with 1,000 lights, executives in tuxedos, philanthropists in gowns, press cameras flashing. Everyone who was anyone had come to see what Jack Hale would unveil. But Lily only saw 2 people. Jack stood in the front row in a black suit, holding Ella's hand. His daughter wore a silver dress and the brave bracelet she designed herself. She waved at Lily, barely able to contain her excitement. Lily stepped onto the stage. Her white dress caught the light. On her wrist, the original Stay bracelet gleamed. A year ago, Lily began, her voice steady, I sat alone at a restaurant, convinced no one was coming, convinced I wasn't worth staying for. But someone did stay, and he taught me that sometimes the right person doesn't come to impress you. He comes to see you, really see you. She gestured to the displays around the room. Hundreds of pieces, each one a small act of love meant for a child who needed it. This collection isn't about jewelry, Lily continued. It's about presence. It's about the kids in shelters who go to bed wondering if anyone remembers them. The teenagers in foster care who think they're not worth keeping. The children in hospitals who feel invisible. We want them to know someone sees them. Someone chose them. Someone stayed. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. Every piece in this collection will be given free to organizations serving vulnerable children. We've partnered with 200 nonprofits across the country, and every single piece will carry the same message. You matter. You are seen. You are loved. The room erupted in applause, but Lily wasn't finished. She looked directly at Jack. There's someone here who taught me what it means to stay. He showed up when he didn't have to. He listened when no one else would. He built something bigger than himself because he understood that power without purpose is just noise. Jack Hale, would you join me up here? Jack's eyes widened. He hadn't expected this, but Ella pushed him forward, grinning. He walked onto the stage. Lily took his hand. Thank you, she said quietly, just for him, for staying. He squeezed her hand. Thank you for letting me. Later, after the speeches and the photos and the celebration, the 3 of them walked out into the cool night air. Ella skipped ahead, her bracelet catching streetlight. Jack and Lily walked behind her, fingers intertwined. You know what I realized? Jack said softly. What? We spend so long building walls to protect ourselves from hurt, but all it takes is one quiet moment, one hand that doesn't let go, to feel human again. Lily leaned her head on his shoulder. We found each other in the loneliest place. And we stayed, Jack finished. Ella turned back to them, her face glowing. Come on! Let's get ice cream. They laughed and followed her down the street. 3 people who had been lost and lonely, now found and whole. Because sometimes love doesn't announce itself with trumpets. Sometimes it just sits down at an empty table and says, maybe tonight I'll stay. Subscribe if you believe love still begins with kindness. Share this with someone who needs to hear they matter.